Hi everyone, it's Catherine. Sorry for the late start. I wanted to give AU some time to finish up his live stream, but in fairness, this is probably early for us because usually we're nattering us off. But yes, I'm here with Claire, and we are going to discuss all the way from Dany 4 to Arya 9 in A Storm of Swords. Ion has just told me very valuably that I can go to my channel and rejig it so that the live stream comes up. So thanks for that, because I've been trying to figure it out and I can't. So I'll try and figure that out while we're on the stream.
Okay.
You're one of the many people that didn't get to Con of Thrones. I feel your pain. I'm having serious. I was texting with Claire.
I've been watching Kyle's clips as well on ASOIAF. He's putting all these little clips on Instagram of little interviews and the Jon Snow lookalike, and
I know so
it
good.
looks like a fantastic venue, actually.
Yeah. It does actually. Although I really hope that they go to the East Coast next year, because then I might
Dallas
be able to go.
That is,
Dallas would be 15, 16 hours for me.
Well, Gemma went from the UK, and it was like hours and hours and hours, and she was on like 3 different flights, and she looked like she had jet lag for like, you know, the next 24 hours kind of thing.
Yeah, she did, yeah.
So it is a long way to go. It's a long way to go, but it sounds like lots of fun.
Fingers crossed. I know Phil the Issues had a vlog up as well, and he's kind of rooting for New York or Boston. So I'm like,
yeah, that would be great. I mean, I could make it over to New York in like I think it's a 5-hour flight.
Yeah, it's not that long for me.
It's pretty easy. Yeah.
Top tip: if you're going from London, try and change in Dublin, so then you don't have to do immigration when you get to the other side.
Oh, right.
Okay. They're all just eating crisps in Dublin, so they're grand. They don't care. They're just like, sure. That's a bit of an underestimate. I'm sorry. Don't check me extra hard the next time I go through Dublin, please. Okay, so we have Bran, Bubba, Ion, OTDA, and AU. AU, congratulations on your 600 subs. AU is always linked in the description for the Game of Thrones A Song of Ice and Fire videos, so please go and check him out. Although I think everybody knows AU at this stage. He just did a video on Westworld, which I had to leave early, so I'm going to be going back on that. And Living My Rhapsody, welcome. Nice to see you here. So please go check out that channel as well. It's such a great channel. So I said to you before we started, Claire, I think this is one of my favorite like chunks of reading since we started. Next week we do have Jon 6 to Tyrion 6, and with the exception of Jon 6, everything next week is very Red Wedding focused. We have the Red Wedding next week, so I'll have a lot more wine with me next week. But yeah, this week I just thought it's all over the place a little bit. I think it's going to be harder for us to find a common theme. I don't know about you. And lots of theories going on. I have my nails painted blue in honor of Dario, because we meet Dario for the first time. But yeah, so we're on chapters 42 to 47 according to the wiki. So we started off with Dany 4. What did you think in general this week, Claire?
Well, I think this is the beginning of a different stage for Dany, because this is kind of, in this chapter we get her first battle. And how she reacts to that, and what she. I mean, the thing is, I don't know how people feel about Dany generally. I feel as though I've changed my opinion slightly, to a more positive slant during this reread, and I do feel as though at this stage things might change as we go forward with it. But I do feel as though Dany does have good intentions and she wants to be a good leader, but it's just like she's not thought it through. So, I mean, the very clearly at the beginning of this chapter, we get confronted with the consequences of freeing slaves. And as a concept, that sounds wonderful. You know, mother of dragons, breaker of chains, she's freeing slaves. But if you don't have any kind of infrastructure there in place for their support and their transition from the position that they're in, then unfortunately and as we see later on in the story, they're likely to kind of say, well, you know what, I was sort of okay as I was before. And she's gathering this massive collection of free slaves that are attaching themselves to her and the Khalasar, and that's problematic. It's problematic, and it doesn't really feel as though anybody's given us any particularly great sort of strategic counsel around what to do with that. I mean, in Astapor, she seems quite confident that she's left this council of people in charge of Astapor, but it just seems flimsy. And as we see later on in the story, they, you know, that council, I'm fairly certain what happens later on is that council kind of collapses, and you know, what she left in place didn't work. So it's tricky, because it kind of feels like she wants to do the right thing, but she's not going about it the right way, and she's kind of terraforming the culture, but she's not offering, you know, I mean, people are just screaming and shouting Mysa, 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 and sort of lifting her up, but she's not necessarily providing them with anything in terms of an alternative apart from freedom, which is wonderful. That's great. But I mean, what do you do with that if if you've used to being a slave all your life, and it's a kind of, you know, it's ingrained in your culture, it's a generational thing. I'm not saying that slavery, by the way, is a good thing at all. I'm just saying that these kind of systems and culture change, this sort of huge system change that she's bringing in, has its consequences, and we're beginning to see those consequences now already. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, what do you think about that, Kat?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think it's a huge issue, because as soon as she frees all these people, she suddenly has all these mouths to feed and people to protect. It's by the way, you have kind of ruined my life in a way. I mean, it's immeasurably better in some ways, but it ruined my life this week because now I have an addiction to the Order of the Green Hand.
Yeah,
so
they are good.
Yeah, and they had a great series on Dorne and the Fire and Blood, and you know, talk about how Aegon Targaryen is seen as this kind of he comes in and he's an oppressor to some, but actually one of the things that history kind of celebrates of him is the fact that he does look after small folk as much as he can when they are under his protectorate, and even when they're not, he tries to. So and Dany is trying to do the same thing, and there's a lot, of course, with Dany that kind of ties her to Aegon in a lot of ways. But yeah, I mean, the thing, it's tricky, right? Because she, in some ways, she's horribly prejudiced, because she says, oh, Yunkai is the same as Astapor, they're all the same, and you know, she's got that, but at the same time she has taken it upon herself. I just wonder if she was a mother, would it be different? And I wonder if it comes to it, if she does become pregnant in the series, will she treat people outside of her own child or children, will she treat them a bit differently? Because really, for her, by the end of this chapter, it's kind of, because they're saying Misa, 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 it's kind of coming back to the fact that they're seeing her as a mother. That's what's kind of attractive to her. But what I really liked about this chapter is the fact that this, since Astapor especially, but I think this is the first chapter where she derives confidence from within rather than from without. She doesn't look to Rhaegar and Viserys and, you know, her Targ lineage to try and justify or to give her confidence or embolden her in any way. I think it's really, this is the one thing that she, since Astapor, she's like, actually, you know what? I do have strengths of my own. And you can especially see that with the Jorah scene, right?
Well, he gets comprehensively friend-zoned, doesn't he, in this chapter? This is like, there's no you know, there's no grey area here. It's a, you're in the friend zone. That's it. Done and dusted. And well, you know, in comes Dario with his blue manicured nails.
Yeah, so let's talk about Dario. I do have the blue nails on for Dario. I'm not gonna bitch about the show because I know people were disappointed that they changed out the actors or the actor left or whatever, but actually I'm just disappointed that he's not Tyroshi enough. We don't really get any of those kind of characters in the show, but this description, and even down, you know, for the nail enthusiasts among us, which is probably just me and Claire, the even down to the fact that when he comes back after the later on in the chapter, his nail varnish is all chipped from like fighting and like taking the heads and whatever. So I really like the details there. Good details from George. But I really like Dario, but I'm interested in the chat, people. What do you think? And we should say hello to Angela. Johnny was there at one stage. Sorry if I missed anyone else. AU, hi AU. I think I said hello to you already. I wonder what you think of Dario. Is Dario? I hate these kind of things. That's like oh, Dario is.
I mean, I agree with you that Dario in the TV show was probably something that, I mean, you know, I don't think it could be helped with the initial actor decided to just bugger off and do something else. But I think they had at least 2 actors, didn't they? Possibly even 3. It's the same with the Mountain as well. But he seems to in the show be on heading towards being one of her, you know, the betrayals, the 3 betrayals.
Yeah, do you think they'll come back to him in the show? I'm not entirely sure.
I don't know. I don't know if they've got enough time to even.
I don't know if they have enough time. I was thinking about that today, actually. Will they have enough time to go back to him? I actually prefer the new actor because he's just, I find that kind of rugged, bearded look. Obviously, I married a bearded man, so I find that rugged, bearded look a little bit more attractive, but that's just personal preference. But I would prefer Tyroshi.
The show should have gone full Tyroshi, Angela. I agree. It wouldn't have been that much, would it? I mean, it's not like there would have been a huge budget on just making them look a little bit more colourful and a little bit more quirky.
Yeah.
But I don't know if he's going to be one of the betrayals in the books. Certainly, it's looking like he will in the TV show, but I don't know.
I don't know either. I think he is who he is. Although in saying that, a Tyroshi disguise is a really good disguise. Like it's like if you're gonna disguise yourself, it is a really good disguise.
It's pretty good, yeah.
Theories have come up, but yeah, as AU says, Dario is Dario. I'm trying to see, did I pick up anything else from this? Oh yeah, well, we had a lot of Rhaegar talk, which is interesting because we go into Arya and have a lot of Ashara Dane talk. So
yes, in fact, this comes up in a couple of this clutch of chapters, the Harrenhal tourney and Rhaegar and this kind of era. It does creep up. It creeps into Arya's chapter. The Wents are mentioned, like it's part of Jaime's chapter as well. So we're definitely kind of delving into this now from different angles and perspectives. But I've got a couple. I mean, basically, what Barristan Selmy or Whitebeard he is still at this stage. He's basically saying that Rhaegar was good at everything. Rhaegar again is a little bit like the Red Viper, you know, this kind of Renaissance man who's just can turn his hand to anything, and he's like, you know, he's going to be a great athlete, he's going to be a great warrior, he's going to be a great academic, he's going to be, you know, he's just brilliant at everything. But yet there's this real melancholy about him. There's this air of sadness about him. And they talk about, I mean, they talk about it being the shadow of Summerhall, and that's the reason, you know, he was born in tragedy. So this kind of forms part of his personality. But it's so difficult to kind of get a handle on Rhaegar. Was he trying to undermine his father at this stage? Was he kind of rallying his... I mean, it seemed like everybody... Not only was he good at everything, but everybody loved Rhaegar, apart from Robert Baratheon. It's like everybody seemed to be like enamored with Rhaegar.
Is it a bit too much?
I don't know. I don't know.
I want some dirt on Rhaegar.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the way Dany is kind of coming at it from a woman's perspective, going, well, his wife was there. What's going on with that? Like, why didn't he go with the wife? But they see, like we, frustratingly, when we get to the Arya chapter as well, there seems to be like this conspiracy of silence to like hold back information from the next generation on like these people. And I don't... Whether it's willful or not, this holding back of information, whether you don't want to speak ill of the dead, or I don't know what it is, but because even Dany admits she doesn't want to hear like about Rhaegar losing. But yeah, it's very frustrating. Angela says, "Don't you guys think Ned Stark may have admired Rhaegar, unlike Robert?" I totally think he did.
Yeah, I think.
But then he did, Ned is operating on some other information, I would assume. Angela, I totally agree. I totally felt bad for the Dornish wife as well. She did get shafted. Although the Order of the Green Hand is making me rethink this whole 3 heads of the dragon thing.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, is like our Elia, Lyanna, and Rhaegar the 3 heads of the dragon? Like that bringing together of Dorne, of ice and fire through the Targaryens. That's what I've been thinking. But yeah, I don't know. The Rhaegar stuff is very confusing, and especially when we get this summer haul. I liked when Barristan said, by the way, why isn't anyone questioning? This is obviously Barristan at this stage, right?
It's yeah.
But especially Jorah, what an idiot.
Well, yeah, I mean, the obvious thing is, how does he know so much? He could only be a Knight of the Kingsguard to have known this level of detail of things that were happening at the turning. But just a random thing that I wanted to ask, because I can't, just to remind everyone that we both haven't read these books for many, many years. So this reread really is blowing a lot of the cobwebs away. But the minor details of this sort of smaller named houses. So the Wents, for example, are mentioned here in this, you know, the recalling the Tony at Harrenhal, but also mentioned in another couple of chapters. I don't know if anyone can remind me, or if you know, Catherine, but where are the Wents now? Because they seem to have been quite a big...
Cat's mother was a Went, is that right?
Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Ned's mother. One of their mothers is a Went.
One of the Kingsguard during this time was a Went.
Yeah.
Like the Darry, there was a Darry and a Went.
Wasn't it Went, Hightower and Dane at Terrajoy? Or am I just remembering that?
Oh, Stuart's saying that the Bastard of Bolton married the last remaining. That wasn't the... Was she the woman? No. Who was the one who ate her fingers?
No.
That wasn't what Went, was it?
No,
that was a completely different area of Westeros. Shush, get back to your thing.
Stuart is usually our dictionary on this. I can trust him. He's better than the Ice of Fire app. Old Lady went batty.
Okay.
Yeah, I need to read up on Went. Actually, funny enough, I was on my app today. This is not an ad, but I was looking up Went because it triggered something when I was reading.
Well, the Wents are mentioned here. They're mentioned in Arya's chapter, mentioned in Jaime's chapter. It's just a name that's come up enough for me to think, where are they now in terms of the story now? Do they feature in the story now?
Yeah, no, I don't think there's many of them left anyway, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Barbara said Cat's mum was a Went,
Yeah, sure we talked about that because he was the Went was at Tower of Joy with High Tower and Dane.
Yeah.
Remember we were talking about that, like because basically Ned kills a relative of Kat's at Tower of Joy.
Yes.
Whether it's a cousin or whatever, he's still like.
Yes. Yeah.
So we assume Ned kills him, unless Howland, frogged him. So we'll.
So Dario has taken the heads of all of the other leaders of the Sellswords and presented them to Daenerys. And in the middle of all this, the Titan's bastard has fled. And I seem to recall that we do see him later on in the middle of like the whole Pale Mare thing.
I think so.
Doesn't he?
Yeah.
So it's not the last we see of the Titan's bastard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I have to say, as much as I enjoyed this chapter, in comparison to the other chapters we have this week, folks, totally kind of dull. I feel like there's so much coming up with Arya. As we get, it's all about the Riverlands right now, isn't it? It's all kind of ramping up around the Riverlands, with the exception of Sam, whose chapter is incredible this week. In fact, we're only on Sam 3, and they've all been incredible. So we're going to skip on from Dany 4, and we're moving on to Arya 8, folks. Arya 8 is her last chapter with the BWB. Yes. And with Beric and stuff. By the way, Beric. So we're on Arya 8, which is chapter 43. And the back-to-back chapters are really significant here. So we go from talking about Rhaegar at Summerhall and all that kind of jazz to pretty much the Ghost of High Heart appears really quickly in this chapter. And sorry, Ion, for some reason they asked me to withhold your comment because you were swearing with #8. So I have no idea.
Secret code for something.
Thank you. My live streams will now appear on my page. Thanks a million for that walkthrough. It took me a while to figure it out, but I got it. Thank you. So the Ghost of High Heart turns up pretty quickly, and obviously we get talk of Summerhall or allusion to Summerhall and things like that. And all she wants is to French Len.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't you want to do that? One tooth, lovely. But yeah, so it's she obviously, the Ghost of High Heart, obviously. Well, before that we have Beric. Is it? I think Beric interrupts
before we get into any of this. Can I just ask you about Thoros, or Toros, as you say, which I think is so cute. Toros of Mia is. He just slips into the conversation here that he was given to the Red Priest as a child. As was Mel, as we know that Mel was given to the Red Priest as a child. My question is, I think we know from mainly from I think the world of Ice and Fire that Asshai is a place where there are no children. Are the children from Asshai taken and just somehow their lives sacrificed to this religion? And they are, I don't know, somehow kind of indoctrinated into this cult at a young age and I mean, I don't know where Thoros is from originally. I don't know whether he's from Asshai. We're led to believe that Melisandre is. He is? Thoros is from Asshai? He's from Mia, of course, Thoros of Mia. But they were taken. The link between them is they were taken as children, and I just thought, is there some significance to that, to them being taken as children and brought into this religion? Like, what children? Why? I just don't know. I just thought that was quite interesting. That these childhoods are sacrificed to this religion. But yeah.
I've often wondered, because we get bits and pieces of why Varys, like he was cut because of some sort of magical ceremony. But I wonder, with him being taken and other children, he himself takes children. I wonder, was he at some stage earmarked to go to the Red Priests, or maybe to do something there? It's very shady, and to be honest, not a million miles from our own history. and not that far from their history.
Yeah,
you know?
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, if you think of what do they call the guys, the kids, the singers that they cut in Italy.
Oh, oh God, what are they called?
God damn it! Someone in the chat, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, it's not that unknown, you know. I mean, they took me when I was in 6th class and made me an altar server. So
unspeakable.
Yeah, castratas. Thanks, thanks, Angela. Castratas. Yeah.
Yes, that's it.
So,
Well,
yeah, I mean,
castrated castratas.
So so Thoros is kind of you think he. What was your point, sorry?
I think him and children are brought into this religion to be raised as and trained as priests, which is sinister to start with, which kind of makes it feel as though where are they coming from? Why do they go there? It's this kind of like indoctrination of children, almost like Craster's sons, into some kind of group or religion or organized cult or something. And pardon?
Even the Night's Watch.
Yeah.
Quite young. Yeah, for sure.
And whether or not, I mean, it feels as though Thoros was doubting his faith all the way. So raised in this religion and then doubting the faith, almost kind of putting a show on, really, until this happens with Beric. And somehow he's now super religious and he's talking about fire consumes. And, well, you know, we know that who was it who said ice preserves? I think that was Maester Aemon, wasn't it? So fire consumes, ice preserves. But I just find it interesting, again, that we've said this before. How did Stannis hope to kind of win over the small folk with this new religion? It just seems strange and completely different and foreign to everybody. How was he going to do that? Especially with somebody like Mel, who's forcing, burning effigies of other religions. Yet somehow the numbers of the Brotherhood without banners, they're falling, but their numbers are swelling. It's like Hydra, they just continue to grow. I don't even know how I know that, by the way, because I'm not a kind of comic book person. That must be Stuart's influence. But
you've outed yourself.
But they also seem to be fairly successfully, bringing people into this religion of R'hllor. Everyone, all of them, small folk and hedge knights, and they're all bending the knee. And
when you've got Hoster burning small folk in villages, you might.
He's a nasty piece of work.
He's a nasty bastard.
Honestly,
we have a growing dislike for Hoster.
Yeah, there's something really effed up about that guy, for sure.
Barbara, shh, I'm not allowed to talk about that. Yeah, it is, Bubba. It is very like the Jedi, for sure. Yeah. And Angela, I agree. I'd like to know more about how Thoros is raised. Yeah, we'll get to Hoster in a minute. I felt this is like, my Jon Snow thing. We're not getting any more POVs from him. The thing with Beric when he comes in, 6 is too much. He's clearly having a miserable time.
Yeah.
Miserable time. 6 is too much to bring me back. Don't bring me back anymore.
Yeah. He's done. Yeah.
So the Ghost of High Heart, obviously she predicts Balon. Well, she doesn't predict, she reports Balon's death and Hoster's death, and robs the Red Wedding then, talking about jingly bells and all that kind of thing.
Yes, and a wolf howling in the rain.
Yeah, of course. And obviously, if you're paying attention on a first read, you go, oh, it's raining now. It's raining in Riveron. It's raining on the way to the towers. It's raining everywhere. Of course, it's going to happen soon. The scariest thing for me, though, is when she turns to Arya and she starts crying and she says that Arya's death and says that Arya is a dark heart.
Wolf child, blood child.
Well, yeah. So it should scare Arya more than it does. Unfortunately, I feel like Arya is already on the way to almost celebrating that, especially when she talks to Edric, to Ned, in this chapter about killing people, and she recalls who she's killed, and it's very kind of emotionless, and it's almost like another list in her head.
Yeah.
In addition to the one that her vengeance list, if you like. So Bubba says, I don't think Beric was a follower. He was brought back first. Maybe, yeah. Maybe he was.
Yeah.
We don't know for sure.
It seems as though, I mean, the thing is, everybody's seeing. That's the thing about religion, isn't it? A lot of people, it's if you're faced with a new religion and you've believed in something all your life, it'd be the case of like, okay, well, let me see something then, prove it to me. And what they're seeing is Beric being resurrected time and time and time again. So that's going to be the thing that instills the faith. But with Stannis, as he said in his own words, Robert was somebody who inspired people to follow him. All Stannis seems to do is inspire people to just desert him. Yeah. And it doesn't seem to help that he's trying to introduce this new religion as well through Melisandre, who's just as creepy as shit as far as I'm concerned. Whereas it all seems nice and gentle in the Riverlands. All the small folk are kind of witnessing all these miraculous resurrections. So, of course, they're all kind of, getting to their knees and saying, the night is dark and full of terrors. But I just thought it's interesting that they managed to do that. They managed to kind of turn the tide in terms of religion, whereas Stannis and Mel just couldn't do that. There's just something about strength in the small folk. And, if what you're doing is saying that we are here for the realm, and the realm means the people.
Well, the ghost has the answer to that, because we know that Stannis, you're not even allowed to make reference to the seven. Like, that's all borderline treasonous in Stannis's world, in Stannis's house. Whereas here, the ghost says, basically it's not her god, but she believes that Taurus, that the god, his god will speak to him, and knows that his god will speak to him. And Taurus seems to respect that her god, the old gods, or the god that they speak to her. So there's definitely there's a mutual understanding, which is also very strange, that they genuinely believe in each other's gods, but choose to follow their own gods, which is a very unusual. It's much more like the way old kind of school Catholics were. I might have Saint Bernadette, but you might have Saint Anthony. We both know what they do, but that's my saint and that's your saint. Yeah. It's more like that. Like, they don't seem to be hugely powerful, these gods, but they definitely both exist for the small folk, it seems. So when Stannis comes in and says, "This is it. You can only have this god now. R'hllor is it. That's it. He's the shit. Don't want to hear any more about the seven. Don't want to hear anything about old gods.
Everything else is going to be burned."
Yeah, it's not the way it's from this example. It doesn't seem to be the way it works. And even later with Sam, he doesn't pray to the seven; he prays to old gods. Yeah. So there seems to be this. There seems to be this kind of idea. Ian says, "Ariane's losing my religion is a R'hlorism." Yeah, I agree with you. The night is dark and full of terrors, according to Angela. And Bubba says, what's bizarre is how R'hllor seems to use resurrection to bring people into the fold. Both Mel and Thoros had actually lost their faith before being able to bring someone back to life. Well, that's Mel at the show, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think she ever loses faith in the books, does she? She's pretty dogmatic.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know yet, I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know whether we get that Mel chapter. I'm interested actually when we get to that and breaking that down and analysing it, because it seems to reveal that she's actually just, a lot of it is kind of parlour tricks, really. maybe she doesn't believe in a lot of it herself.
Well, she certainly doesn't seem to be able to interpret it. It's almost like Thor isn't looking for answers; he's just given them.
Yeah. It's not me. I'm just an instrument of
It's a very selfless kind of thing, whereas Mel seems to be in it for the glory and the rancid shadow babies. But whatever gets you going now. Before we move on to the Ashara Dane stuff, can we just quickly, because I think they gloss over it here, but I don't think it should be glossed over. And I'm sure when I read this, I was like, I know Claire is going to want to talk about this as well. Hoster, torches the Goodbrooks village. Is that the village that Jaime comes upon later in the next chapter, or is that a different village?
It could be,
because I couldn't find an answer to that. I was like, I wonder, is that the same village? Are they in the same place? To the point where Jaime won't even stay in the village. He's so disgusted by it.
Yeah, I think it might be. It's just completely burned to the ground. I mean, it's... Yeah, Hoster just sounds like an absolutely really nasty... there's something about Hoster that makes me think that he's even worse than Tywin, and actually I'm now beginning to think that Tywin wasn't that bad.
I think he's as bad, if not. I think he's as like that's a Reigns of Castamere job there. Like those they didn't do anything. They basically, their liege lord decided, do you know what? I'm going to stick with the king. I'm not going to go over to Robert's side. And he goes in and burns them all. I mean, it's unbelievable, and it's unbelievable how it's glossed over. And I think it's important that it's mentioned just as the Ashara Dane conversation comes up.
Yeah.
Because I really do think we've talked about this before, he's instrumental in breaking up that relationship between Ned and Ashara. Any Hoster fans in the chat? Any Hoster defenders? I'm glad he's dead. Actually, no, I would like some more answers. But yeah, I just thought that's kind of shocking the way it's just casually thrown in there. I wonder, will we get more about that?
I think there will be a few more little nuggets like that we'll find out about Hoster that's just buried somewhere randomly in the middle of something else that you kind of skip over, because I didn't realise until this reread some of the really kind of dark things that seem to be coming from Hoster. And the fact that his last words were like, please forgive me, like on his deathbed. Well, what exactly, what was it you did? And I think it's more than just the obvious, forcing Lysa to have an abortion or miscarry or whatever. I think it's more than that.
Yeah, there's something weird about the Tullys. They're the family everybody in town crosses the street to avoid, I'm sure. So, hi, Victoria. Nice to see you.
Hi, Victoria.
Aya says, factoid, Taylor Dane is Ashara's second cousin. And Bubba says there's only one good Tully, and he's the Black Goat. Do you know what? I have a soft spot for Edmure, I have to say.
Yeah.
He's a bit strange, and he's a bit arrogant. I don't know. I think there's something about Edmure. I feel like Edmure is like Sam's brother. What's Sam's brother called again?
Oh, Dickon.
Dickon.
Is it?
Yeah. How did I forget Dickon? Demonetized. I can't get monetized anyway. So yeah, I feel like he's a little bit like that, in that Hoster seems to have kind of put all his eggs in Edmure, like saving him, like hoarding him, not marrying him off. And it feels a little bit like that. I think it's similar to Siccon, as Bubba says. The Blackfish did hate Hoster. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I like it when you read things like this. But anyway, so we meet Edric, who's lovely. It's a cutie. I have a big question. How come every fucking kid in Westeros knows more about their family history than the Stark kids?
No, and they're always really surprised, like, you didn't know anything about this? You had no idea about this at all? So
That's so shit.
yeah. So this is the second time this, like, you know, really, you knew nothing about it. Being confused about why do you not know more about this tale than we do. So we had the Reeds questioning Bran in a recent chapter about, how did you not know any of this? Did your father not tell you any of this? And about the tourney at Harrenhal. And we get it here again. And of course, all of this goes completely over Arya's head. And she just thinks, don't talk about me dad like that. You know, he was honourable, and just, you know, that can't possibly have happened. Ion
has he says, has stark words. We know nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially the kids, for sure.
So, yeah, I just want to ask, there's a couple of random things that I want to ask before we get into Edric Dane and Ashara and Ned and Harrenhal. Is interesting that the ghost of High Heart said that don't bother trying to look into the flames here. It won't work. Yeah. So you know that you're in a sacred place. You know that you're somewhere that's surrounded by the old gods, and you're not going to be your religion. As much as I'm saying it, I'm acknowledging that it exists and it works for you. It's not going to work here. Don't even bother.
I'm going to change my Wi-Fi to Weirwoods, so that it'll be the first, like the strongest signal in my house. It's because that's what I kind of imagined. It's like, well, you're in a Wi-Fi network for Weirwoods now.
Yeah.
And your R'hllor can't get in, but if you go somewhere else, R'hllor will be stronger. That's what it feels like.
Yeah. The other thing, which again is really random, but it's just like, does it mean anything, is that everybody in the morning who's located at High Heart seems to wake up ill. Like everyone's poorly the next day. Everyone seems to be really ill. And that seems to carry on to Arya's next chapter as well, where she's poorly and shivering, and the hound's just like, get a grip, get yourself together. But did something happen there? I mean, it just seems really strange. I mean, was it just a bug going around, or?
I wonder, is that foreshadowing for them throwing bodies in the water?
Yeah, maybe
later. So, because they're going to find Cat in the water, and I assume that's where they're like washing and getting their water. So that's quite a recent thing that people knew that it was bad to do that. I mean, some cultures did, but not everybody knew that you shouldn't kind of use the water if there's something dead in it. And they may not even know. Okay, apparently rape is now Bubba, rape is now a swear word. Cronall use rape. So I guess they don't want trolls coming in and saying things about rape.
Well, that's Iron Throne saying that the old gods are energy vampires, but I don't know, there just seems to be something there about, like, you know, you're in a location that's very linked to, you know, it's a spiritual place. And you go there with your like dirty fire religion, and yeah, you know, we're not going to kill you, but we might make you feel a bit ill for just being here. I don't know, there just seems to be sort of something in that. Yeah. Yeah, YouTube
well,
just in the chat.
I have no problem with you saying rape. I was going to say rape away. That doesn't sorry. I meant you can use it. It's hard to talk about Game of Thrones and not use it. Welcome. Oh God.
Oh, what do you call it? The algorithms have gone crazy.
That's actually really good. I really like the energy vampire thing. That could be it as well. Yeah. I mean, it's certainly true when the reeds go towards, I know there's like Jojen paste and all that kind of thing, but they kind of get sicker as they're going. I seem to remember there's something about them not feeling the best as they get closer to blood rape.
Yeah, there's just something strange about it.
Yeah.
Then we run into Ned, who's Beric's squire. And I didn't realize actually that Edric Stark is the rightful lord of Starfall.
I love the way he introduced himself.
Yeah, I'm Edric Dane, Lord of Starfall.
Yeah.
But what if really that is the case? What is he doing hanging around with the Brotherhood without banners?
There's a lot of questions about the Danes. I know Arya says it to Harwin at one stage. I think it's to Harwin anyway. Is it true what they say about Dornish men? Or are they all liars? No, it's Anguy. She says it too. The Danes don't feel like your typical Dornish people. At least they just feel a little bit more reserved. Definitely, like he's very. I don't know. I wonder, is he with Beric for a reason? And I wonder who put him with Beric.
I mean, I just
is that something Ned could have arranged?
I thought that he was like, much lower down the food chain, and that he was like some, cousin of but he's actually the nephew of Ashara and Arthur. So his father was Ashara Dane and Arthur Dane's older brother.
Yeah.
It's just like that's he's a precious commodity. What is he doing hanging around with this like band of
but that's a good question. I don't know about his father, if he's still alive. He does refer to himself as Lord of Starfall.
So he does.
It is. I wonder, is that something that Ned arranged for him to be with Beric? Or is there like, why would he be around King's Landing to have been in a position to go with Beric? Ned's Beric's squire because Beric's engaged to his aunt. Thanks, Barbara.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Well,
that makes a bit more sense then. But still, you'd think that when everything turned to shit, that he'd be like hightailing it back to Starfall if he's so important.
That nobody is keeping tags on him from Starfall.
Yeah.
That he's out with this kind of group of vigilantes. Well, what's going on in Starfall? Do you think we'll ever see Starfall?
I don't think we will in the TV show, but I'm hoping that we will in the books.
Well, I don't think we're going to see Grey Water Watch. We haven't in the TV show. Yeah, we're not going to see either of those things. But I'd love to see Starfall. I'd love to see that. But then, yeah, it's a funny old one that nobody's keeping tags on him. Connie says, I think the crows are eaters of memories and histories, standing in for blood, sacrifices for the weirwoods, collecting the info of long gone weirwoods, and so vertical of sacrifices are no longer. The crows eat out the eyes of things that see. Yeah, that certainly seems to be something. Yeah, and Bubba says, sent to learn to fight, to be honourable, so can possibly be Lord of Starfall. I hope. Sword of the Morning. Got it. Had to read the emojis. Sword of the Morning. Yeah, that makes sense, Bubba. D&D are staunchly anti Ned and Ashara. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Beric was a very respected lord in and of himself. So I'm sure it would have been a great honor for Edric to be with him. So yeah, let's talk Ashara and Ned. Just to take a litmus test of the chat, how many people are on the N+A equals D or J? So Ned and Ashara equals Dany or Jon. Because that is, I think if you're looking at the fandom, R+L equals J is like what, 95% of the fandom?
No, I would say definitely, yeah.
A lot more. At this stage after the show, it's probably a lot more. But Ned and Ashara, there are a lot of Ned and Ashara supporters out there. Ned and Ashara equal Dany or equal Jon. I kind of think that it's possible for Dany, potentially. But I don't know. I just want answers. I don't care what it is anymore.
I mean, this is... there's so many things to consider here. It's why would Edric Dane's aunt tell him this in faith. It seems as though he's been told this in good faith, that Ashara and Ned fell in love at Harrenhal. But again, what could that mean? Was that just over the course of a couple of days? Was there any time in between that, after the tourney, where they were able to spend some time together between that and the Tower of Joy? I mean, I remember hearing something, I think it might have been Order of the Green Hand, who was saying that there was probably about a year in between where they could have had a life together. Ned and Ashara could have actually, you know, shacked up together and had a life together and had a child together. But there's too many variables, deliberately, obviously. But I think something definitely, I mean, I think we can pretty much say with fair certainty that something happened between Ned and Ashara.
Definitely.
It's to the extent of what happened. Did it result in a child? Was it just a bit of a love affair over the course of, you know, a couple of nights? Who knows? Well, we will find out eventually.
Dany asks, were they possibly betrothed? I think they could have been married. I think it could have gone. When we get into that weird cat chapter, when she's talking about losing her maidenhead and all that kind of nonsense, I think Ned truly loved Ashara, and Ashara truly loved Ned, and I wouldn't be surprised if Ashara was the one that told Ned where to find the Tower of Joy, because she loved him and was told, and that could have been why she killed herself. Because
I can't help think that this all went horribly wrong, and is rooted in something to do with Hoster meddling around in this, and that if they were married, if Ashara and Ned were legitimately married, that he somehow managed to kind of get around that, to make sure that after Brandon had died, that his daughter was definitely going to be marrying Ned. And it's like, what do you mean he's married to somebody else? I don't care. You know, Hoster's going to get his own way. The guy's evil. Yeah, but let's talk. I think what we can take from this is we know that something happened between Ned and Ashara. We don't know to the extent, and did it result in a child? But
so let's talk about what Edric knows. He refers to Jon as his milk brother, which instantly reminds me of the Kite Runner. If anyone has seen the Kite Runner or read the book, I should say, that's one of the core things in the Kite Runner, is that they're milk brothers.
Right.
Spoiler alert, they actually turn out to be brothers in the end. But obviously that's years after this is written, so but it is kind of like that they're milk brothers. So maybe they're first cousins as well. Who knows? But I will definitely watch that video. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, I'm on a bit of a binge watching streak with them at the moment, so I probably will watch the Order of the Green Hands video on Ned's Bastards. So he talks about Wyla being the woman that was their milk brothers, and I just wonder whether it's true or not. It would be a convenient way for the Danes to make sure that they stick to the story. I heard a theory, can't remember where it was. It could have been Davos Fingers or maybe Order of the Green Hand. I can't remember, ages ago. And I might butcher it, but something about how the Danes worked because they felt that Arthur Dane died for a reason, protecting the person he loved, Rhaegar, and his child, that they would have respected Ned for bringing back the sword, and they would have respected, because Ned was respecting Arthur and what he died for, that they would have gone along with this cover-up in order to honor that sacrifice, if you like. It would make sense, sure, but
you could word it that way.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, if it was me and I'd heard that Ned, whether I loved him or married him or my family was all completely enamored by him, if I'd found out that he was the one responsible for killing my brother, I'm not sure I would be quite so respectful of, you know, was it a sacrifice or was it just,
Yeah, so
who knows?
Is Ashara dead? Is Arthur dead? They're like, they're the big questions, right? Because we don't have bodies of either.
These are the two houses, aren't they? Starfall, House Dane, and
Reed.
the Reeds at Greywater Watch. They're the most
conspicuously absent.
Yes, it's all cloak and dagger. So we can only guess.
Also, that they have the wherewithal to arm the next generation with, whether it's a myth or some sort of story about houses, about Starks that really they don't engage with on a daily basis, on a yearly basis even, but their kids know about their history. When Arya is there going, I don't believe any of this, and when she goes to Harwin says, oh yeah, did you know? Ash, doesn't matter, but yeah, no, that all happened.
No one was pledged. No one was pledged. No harm was done. You just let it lie, Arya. Leave it alone.
How does Harwin know?
No harm in it. Let's just, just move on. Don't worry your little head about it. Yeah.
Like it's obviously it's a very good narrative device on George's part, but it's certainly very suspicious that they have kept that information from the Stark children, and there doesn't seem to be any good reason for it, except for the fact that they may be living with the rightful heir to the throne of Westeros. And so that does, I think R plus L equals J is the most likely thing for sure. But Bubba says R plus L equals D is likely too, if you look at it like that. And yeah. Icy Spots is in the house. How are you? Nice to see you.
Hi, Spots.
And it is hot. That's why I'm sweaty and everything is kind of waving in my fan wind. So yeah, I think that's it. I have my little sumo wrestlers in my book.
From your Japan stationery hall.
Just something else. Obviously, we get the line about Hoster then as well. After this, and Gendry's reaction to that, he's kind of disgusted with that news that Hoster has burnt out that village, which says a lot about Gendry actually, and the kind of person he is. And he also he makes fun of the Lord and Lady talking. And Arya thinks to herself, well, he doesn't look much like a lord, but then I suppose I don't look much like a lady, which is again just more valuable kind of more valuable instincts she's picking up, as a would-be assassin later on. Don't judge a book by its cover, kind of thing. Bubba says if he'd been captured by Robert, he would have been stolen, and what his betrothal, and he fathered a child as a king's guard. It's a death sentence and double whammy.
Yeah.
Who fathered a child as a king?
Ashara. No, Arthur. Sorry, Arthur Dane. Yeah.
Arthur
was he the father of the child? Yeah, it could. There's so many permutations of what could have happened at that tourney. It almost seems like a mythical event. Everyone remembers it so differently.
It does seem a bit excessive for Ashara to kill herself in a time where people die all the time. Arthur could have been killed at any stage. No matter how great a fighter he is.
Yeah.
And if anything, the fact that he holds the honor of being perhaps the best fighter in history is something that should comfort you in your grief when other people have literally nothing to comfort them in their grief at this time.
Yeah.
So there
Yeah.
does seem to be a lot more going on there with Ashara. And I think the only thing that would make you want to do that is if someone takes your child from you.
Yeah.
And your love. Your one true love. So
Arya escapes at the end of this chapter, but not before she hears that Beric and Thoros have had a view of Riverrun in the flames, and they've seen a sea of Lannisters, but they've not seen Robb or Cat in the flames.
And it's quite a definite view, isn't it? It's quite a definite.
Yeah. There's everything is foreshadowing towards the next few chapters, which is the Red Wedding. But yeah, so she escapes at the end of this chapter.
Or she is taken.
She's taken.
And
yes.
Liam Neeson shows up on the phone and says, I will find you. No. I see spots. How are you? You do see guitars in the background, but they're my husband's. I can sing The Rains of Castamere, but I can't strum it. Fanny says Sir Duncan the Tull, Shawina Arthur, absolutely, totally. Oberyn too, his daughter from her mother. And Bubba says, I think Lyanna was the only person who died at the Tower of Joy. I agree. No corpse, no death. I don't see how, because people argue all the time, oh, they couldn't be expected to bring bodies that far. I don't see how you can't go back for bodies. Like, if the Danes really want Arthur back in the same way as the Starks want Ned's bones back, and they're somewhere traveling around the Riverlands or the Neck or somewhere at the moment.
That was mentioned as well in Cat's chapter.
Yeah, so I don't see why, and they have to travel further. So I don't see why they wouldn't go back for bones. It doesn't make any sense. They would. Yeah. They certainly would go back for, especially Arthur Dane.
No corpse, no death. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I'm not buying the Dane deaths. Maybe even the High Tower deaths. But then where are they? I would love Liam on Game of Thrones. Liam Neeson would be great. I wonder who would he play. Tell us in the chat, who would Liam Neeson play? That would be amazing. Howland Reed, no. Maybe he won't be bad, Howland Reed. Although he's a bit too tall, I think. Yeah. All right. So, and only Dustin's horse, not Bones. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think
Lady Dustin's husband's horse.
Too much.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So that's Arya. We have a really good Arya chapter coming up with. Oh, sorry. I have something here. Say nothing to Cat. Oh, yes. Sorry. Harwin tells Arya to not mention Ashara to Cat. Specifically, don't mention this to your mother when you see her. Which is, Cat told us that Ned said to her, never mention Ashara to me again.
Yeah.
So it's not like it was a touchy issue with her. She would want to know these things. So there definitely is a conspiracy of silence. Was Harwin's dad with Ned at Tower of Joy? Or his granddad?
I think
his granddad, was it?
He was with. Yes, it was. Because there was 6, wasn't it? 6 against 8.
Yeah. Liam would have been a good Ned. Yeah. He good Lewin, actually. Good Lewin, I think. All right, so we're on to Jaime 6. And we're going to a whole other realm of discussion here. Jaime, so we move from kind of we move from talking about ghosts and things like that. And the first thing Jaime obviously talks about is leaving Harrenhal, and Harrenhal also known for its ghosts. I was just thinking, Harrenhal has had quite a few lords at this stage.
Yeah.
So,
well, what was mentioned, he takes the Lothston shield, which has the image of the bats on it, and it's referenced that they were the lords at Harrenhal before the Went, so they all died out before the Wents, and which again made me think, where are the Wents now? Like, why is what? Yeah. Anyway, there seems to have been quite a few different incumbents actually at Harrenhal, but certainly the Wents who were mentioned, and they were the they were the ones who actually hosted the infamous tourney at Harrenhal.
Yeah, and so obviously Vargo Holt is Lord of Harrenhal right now, and it is key. It is a key spot. I kind of think that's where the final battle may be at Harrenhal, the big battle. I think it's going to come down there, and everybody's going to meet around there. I could be wrong, but that's what I feel like. Because there's so,
well, it's very, very close to the the Isle of Faces and the God's Eye, and I think it's all happening around there.
Someone is going to be wiped out there. So Qyburn, creepy. Qyburn, we're told, inspects this prostitute, and Pia, and sends this prostitute to Jaime's bed, and he refuses her because he stayed loyal to his sister like a good brother. He mentions that he also inspected and examined Brienne, and that her maidenhood is still intact. I'm not sure you can you tell that from that? I don't know. It must be very
well, it's a little bit like that. Do you remember Pycelle inspecting every inch of Sansa? Ugh. Yeah. So
like that must be so invasive. Like,
well,
really
there's this thing, isn't there, about the Maesters having this trusted position as like family. They bring your children into the world, and they're like trusted physicians and spiritual confidants for the lords and ladies' children. But they're given such an amount of trust, I think, within that environment, that there's bound to be massive opportunity for basically for abuse.
Yeah. Now when I see anything with Qyburn, I'm kind of thinking Harvey Weinstein every time. It's like, just like really creepy.
There is something interesting about Qyburn, though, that he mentions that he seems to have been quite friendly with Marwyn.
Yes.
Marwyn the Mage. Now, he in the book seems
not the
dog. He seems to have been, he's in the books, he's still quite a mysterious character, Marwyn, but he seems to be more on the kind of enlightened, positive side, whereas Qyburn is seen as, as you've described, really creepy and sinister, but yet they seem to be quite friendly. So that interests me. Like, what kind of relationship did Qyburn have with Marwyn? What interest did they share? What was their relationship, and why were they so friendly? And are they still in contact with each other? Are they still on a friendly basis? Is Qyburn somehow working with Marwyn behind the scenes? So I thought that was quite interesting.
Bubba says Russell Crowe as Howland Reed, and Barbara says Liam Neeson, perfect for elder brother. I would actually like to see Gabriel Byrne as Howland Reed.
I used to have a bit of a crush on Gabriel Byrne when I was a lot younger.
But wouldn't he be a good Howland Reed?
Yeah, I think he would be. He's the right kind of height as well as me. He's only a little fella.
I feel like he's got the dark features and lived in look. Definitely think Gabriel Byrne as Howland Reed would have been good, but I don't think we're going to see Howland Reed again on the show anyway. Maybe when we have squillions and money and we can make our own show. I'll have Liam Cunningham back as Davos. All right, so it's interesting that Jaime, bearing in mind that this is the man that saved his arm, hates Qyburn and like has a physical kind of distaste for Qyburn. And it's a red flag then when Cersei immediately brings him into the fold, right? I mean, Cersei, like Jaime loves Cersei so much, but he doesn't see the flaws. And like, it's just one of the things the reader knows this guy's a creep. You know this guy's a creep, but your sister brings him into the fold. And later on, like when we get to the dream and whatever, when he sees Cersei, he's really attracted to her on a very shallow level, I feel like, because it appeals to the vanity. It appeals to his vanity. She looks like him. She was kind of the female that was around when they were growing up. She's quite dominant. But then his attraction to Brienne is a lot deeper because, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a romantic or sexual attraction to Brienne, but certainly Brienne reminds him of the person that he wants to be, and that's what a good relationship does, right? A good relationship, whether it's a friendship or a marriage or whatever, it's supposed to make you want to be a better person. Because you have this person in your life that you want to impress. Okay, it's kind of like me with my polishes, Claire. I'm trying to impress you all the time. That's why I have so many. I'll just blame you for it. It's like me by nail art. I'm trying to impress Nika all the time, but it'll never happen. But yeah, you know, that kind of idea that when with Qyburn, he's so repulsive. Like, how long have they been traveling at the beginning of this chapter? Not very long. Like, they're a day's ride, maybe a day and a half. And he's already like, this guy is disgusting. I don't like this guy at all.
I know he comes across as really creepy, and just the things he says that just seem so natural that everybody else is horrified about. But I've just said in the chat there, I do think he is, who was it now? Angela said, is Qyburn just evil, or is he just a survivor trying to do science his way?
He's Dr. Frankenstein.
And I said, I think he's more of a critical thinker in terms of the other Meisters, and I do feel as though he's ahead of his time. But I don't know what his angle is.
No,
I'm interested to know how he's linked to Marwyn. I
think he is a Dr. Frankenstein, and like if you've read Frankenstein, I don't know why we say doctor. I don't even think he has a doctorate. But anyway, Frankenstein, he is in it to further his knowledge. Like that's what he's in it to do. And I agree. I think Qyburn is a critical thinker. But you know, Newton was a critical thinker as well, but also a bit of a dick. So you know, you kind of it's they're human at the end of the day. And I feel like with Qyburn, he will stop at nothing to further his own knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily sure if there's a political agenda to that.
Well, he does. I get the impression that he's trying to smooth things over. He's trying to make sure that he's on hand, for want of a better phrase, for Jaime, to help Jaime. I think he's fully expecting to be kind of elevated and raised to a better position as soon as he gets to King's Landing. So he's sticking with Jaime on that basis.
I mean, he's king. He's hand in the show now, right? I mean, Ares made pyromancers made a pyromancer a hand, so you know it's not impossible that could happen in the book too with Cersei. I do think I do think there is with Frankenstein in the end. Angela asks, could he be one of the good guys in the end? Frankenstein in the end does become a good guy. Like he burns any he refuses to give any details of how he created his monster. Spoiler alert if you haven't read this book, but it's out 200 years, so he burns everything. He refuses to pass on knowledge. He only wants to tell the story to another scientist because it's like to
A
show.
warning.
But
Yeah.
even in that, he says that the scientist that he's telling the story to, Walton, he says when Walton's men start to mutiny because Walton is still pushing them towards the Arctic and risking all their lives on this scientific expedition, Frankenstein gives this huge speech just after telling him about the dangers of that scientific ambition, gives this huge speech about how they have no courage, this is furthering knowledge, if you don't go through with this, you're not living up to your human potential. It's like, wait a minute. You just spent the entire book. So I don't know. I think people like Qyburn, it's hard to change their habits when they're on this track to try and extend their knowledge.
Well, because he seems to be interested in elevating his position, there's lots of theories, aren't there, about Qyburn is really Howland Reed, or Qyburn is, Qyburn is somebody who's kind of got himself into a position on the inside. I don't necessarily know that.
I've never heard that one. Qyburn is Howland Reed.
Yeah, and the idea is that he's managed to, because he's such a mysterious character, no one knows who he is or what he looks like or whatever. So he can quite easily disguise himself as somebody else and appear. And the plan would be to get yourself into a position where you were on the small council, where you were, you were giving close counsel to the Queen Regent, and that you could somehow exploit that situation to the advantage of the North. So the North have got a man on the inside, whether they know it or not. I think that's a bit convoluted, to be honest. I think Qyburn is just Qyburn.
I think Howland Reed is going to be disappointingly selfish when we they've stayed out of the war this long. I don't see him having a grandmaster plan that hasn't been alluded to, as far as I can tell so far. We haven't come up with anything. There is a lot of chat here about Qyburn. Connie says, Bubba says, a scientist with a super shitty bedside manner. Yep, absolutely. Connie says, further his knowledge and best those masters with a huge discovery. Yeah. And Angela says that Cersei's given him carte blanche. Yeah, I think that's true. I think
that could be it. He could just want to get one up against the Citadel.
He was on death's door anyway. So
yeah. You struck me down, so let me show you.
Yeah,
that could be his life's work. We don't know.
Yeah, and I think Angela's right. George's writing of Qyburn keeps us guessing, and I think his writing, like on Dario, like they're deliberately, there's quite a lot of detail, but it's vague enough that, or the disguise is so outlandish that you see past what they really might be. I feel like there's going to be a lot less hidden characters than people.
Yeah, me too.
I don't think that's going to be, because it's too. I feel George is. It's too much, and we'll have another potential hidden character in a Sam chapter coming up.
But at the same time, there is that thing of, we know that there's been glamoring and baby swapping, and that there's a track record there. There's a history of this, and it's very tempting, isn't it, as readers and as a writer, to have that sins of the father and time, history repeating itself. And we have had history already repeating itself, potentially, with the baby swap at the wall between Gilly's baby and Darla's baby. So, and we've also had in the story a reveal of, Whitebeard and Barristan Selmy. So we know, that it's not, it wouldn't be a complete shock if there were some more hidden characters, and they're deliberately written in there to make you think, is this the whole thing about secret Targ, but is this Howland Reed, or could this be Quaithe, Howland Reed? There's about a dozen characters, both in the past and currently in the story, that are so ambiguous that they could quite easily be a number of other people.
I'm so like it feels so obvious about Barristan now at this stage because he has so much knowledge that I feel I'm hyper aware of people with that kind of knowledge. Maybe George will be a bit more subtle now the fans are looking for that kind of stuff, but with the exception of Quaithe, nobody to me, maybe Cold Hands, but nobody to me really sticks out as that much yet. And I have to say, Jaime and Cersei, there's a lot of evidence for me that they're Targs, but I don't know. The secret Targ thing, I think, is overplayed as well. But I mean, we all could be wrong. We all could be wrong. We all could be right.
It becomes very easy to believe that anyone who hasn't got a solid place in the story and a you know, a watertight backstory, where you know absolutely everything about their motivations and their character arc development, you would, you know, there's so many that it's easy to think that everybody is somebody else. You can drive yourself crazy with it.
It might be a fun live stream to do though. Before the show comes out. Maybe Lisa and AU or someone to be interested. We could make a list. And talk about who the secret people might be.
Did you realise that such and such lady was actually drum roll?
Who the secret people might be? Our top like 10. Because that would be it is a fun thing to think about. So Jaime, anyway, as I said, he walks through. I've written down a burned village. I think it's burned. I think it's the same village that Arya has just been, or that the Hoster burned. I think it is.
And also Jaime thinks about how he's been there before, and he thinks about the old innkeep that was there before.
And his fingers clench with anger as well. He's really angry, which is such a good sign that Jaime is a decent person. When he isn't throwing kids out windows.
He I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Jaime. I always enjoy reading Jaime's chapters, but I did, you know, I made a note at the, you know, like the whole Bear and the Maiden Fair thing with Brienne when he does the 360-degree or 180-degree turnaround and goes back to Harrenhal, and lo and behold, there's the goat, you know, sat there, and there's the Lord of the Castle. Why did he take such a risk? Why did he go back for Brienne?
He dreamed of her. It's a dream. It's like Bobby Ewing in the shower. Anyone get the Bobby Ewing reference?
But it was all a dream. I don't think it is because he's in love with her. I don't think he took that risk.
No.
And I don't think he had. I think it all has to do with those, like, feeling angry about what happened to the village and being annoyed by, earlier on in the chapter, being annoyed by the news that Brienne was actually being held as prisoner, all because of this stupid story about the sapphires. This whole sapphire issue was Jaime's fault in the first place. So as an honourable person, he should have been feeling bad about that. He should have been thinking, no, I need to turn around and go and sort this out. You know, karma.
But Jaime, this is Targ evidence. Jaime is not Tywin and he's not Tyrion. He doesn't plan anything. He's a total act now, think later. He jumps into the bear pit with no plan at all. He could have just said to the lads, listen, you need to get me home. I want her out of there. You shoot some arrows. Rather than jumping in and then trying to figure it out.
Hoping for the best. Yeah.
So he doesn't really think about that thing. I think it's always like that with Jaime. I think he's very much, I mean, he from a very young age, he's been fighting and trying to act on impulse. And it's just like changed his whole way of thinking. It's not like Tyrion, who's had to try and plan to think of a way out of being marginalized and to have an upper hand and to read a lot and be the smartest person in the room, even when people think he's shit. Whereas Jaime has that's all taken care of. Everybody thinks I'm great. I just need to make sure that I'm able to stop this move and this move and this move. Like that's me fighting. I would be brilliant. But yeah, I just feel like when he sees the I think as well, this is what marks George as a quintessentially American fantasy writer, as
Mm.
opposed to like, you know, European, UK, Irish.
Mm.
The idea of rehabilitation is very important to George.
Yeah.
I mean, there's
Yeah.
a lot of people in America that if you do something wrong, that's it forever. You're never seen. You're not even allowed to vote in a lot of places. If you do something wrong, that's it. That's what that defines you for the rest of your life. And I
Right.
think through Jaime, he's trying to say, I'm just saying this, and maybe even the Hound, he's trying to say, actually, no, there is a way to be good again.
Mm.
And that's a theme in the Kite Runner as well. But I think there we have a much
An
more kind
American
of,
thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have a better, maybe a better, I don't know, we have a different attitude to retribution and to rehabilitation, I think, in
Yeah.
our if you do something wrong. Um
Yeah.
but Jaime, I think it's surprising to us that when Jaime is in that village, this is the same person that pushed a 10-year-old kid out a window.
Mm.
And here he is getting angry, and he cannot physically stay in a location because an innkeeper was nice to him once.
Mm.
And it's like, but it's just, and I said this, I think last week, that I genuinely thought, I think that Jaime has been in a state of PTSD
Mm.
since working under Ares,
Yeah.
because his whole narrative was completely changed by Ares, putting him in a
Well,
position where he was chasing
the minute that he was used as an instrument by Ares to completely spite Tywin, so he had it bad from day one, because he was just pulled away from everything that he thought was kind of nurturing and loving for him, and just Ares was a complete arse with Jaime from day one, purely just to be passive aggressive and have a go at Tywin, like from afar.
It's why so many people, like, when they commit a crime and they end up in prison, they turn to religion because they want to be identified with something other than their crime. And we have that with Jaime all the time, even when he jumps into the bear pit and Brienne says, Kingslayer. He's like, it's Jaime.
Well,
It's like,
yeah.
he's constantly, he's like, oh,
It's
what can I do?
yeah.
It's
He
like, this
thinks
guy, he was
about
horrible. He was going to rape and burn everyone. Why am I still being called
he
this?
thinks about certain scenarios where, like with the innkeep, I think this is what really profoundly affected him so much, was he was in a scenario where the innkeep would have been saying, you know, that he's on an honourable knight of the Kingsguard, but yet he thinks if he'd have bumped into that innkeep again after everything that's happened, he would have been calling him Kingslayer. It's that flip of the, you know, some people think that I'm amazing in this environment and these circumstances, and then you flip it over and everybody hates me because of this label of Kingslayer. But I think it's complete, like, a prolonged like episode of PTSD, being in that environment under Ares, and being asked to, like, stand guard while he raped his wife, and just all the things that he was asked to do. But yet and this all comes to him in the dream, when they were saying, yeah, but he was, you know, we still blame you. He was your king. He was your king. He can never escape it.
And he's self-aware enough to know, like, think of what kind of dreams was he having because of Ares. Like, what kind of things were haunting his sleep. So he's self-aware enough to know, I'm dreaming about Brienne, and it's a terrifying dream. And it is like he says to her at the end of this chapter, when she says, why did you come back to me? And he's like, I dreamed about you. Maybe he knows, I'm going to be haunted by you. If I didn't come back, I'd be haunted by you. And so yeah, in this dream, he's in this tunnel, and interestingly, going into Winds of Winter, only Cersei and Brienne are alive. in that tunnel, right?
Mm.
Everybody's naked. Well, Brienne and Cersei are naked, and
Yeah.
Tywin is down there, and Joffrey, and they're all dead now.
Mm.
Which makes me wonder: will Marcella and Tommen be okay? I wonder what's going on there. Or does he even think about them? But
Mm.
anyway,
Yeah, they weren't there, were they? Yeah.
no. So yeah, he thinks about. So he has. So Brienne lets her climb up. Lets him climb up her naked body so he can get out.
Mm.
Is that right? Yeah. But it's just this terrifying dream where there's one torch. Cersei has the torch at one stage, and Tywin is this is also the chapter where he thinks about his father and almost like mocking his dad in his head, going, "Oh, now you're going to have a son with one hand as well as a dwarf son."
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
he like, even though he's clearly Tywin's favorite in a lot of ways, he still has very his respect for his dad is very low. Maybe lower than Cersei. Actually, I would say lower than Cersei and Tyrion's, because he completely he sacrifices Casterly Rock and goes off to the Kingsguard. So
just want to pick up on a couple of points that are made in the comments here about Angela was asking, does the Hound like Jaime? What do you guys think? Can't remember. And Barbara said that she doesn't recall the Hound mentioning Jaime, but later in the books, Jaime seems to think positively of the Hound's behaviour. I don't know. I'm not sure. I mean, we get in Arya's next chapter, you know, in a kind of tongue-in-cheek way, the Hound talks about knight's honour. I don't know whether the Hound would be looking at Jaime and knowing what's going on and thinking, well, look, this is another example of how it's being a knight is a bad thing, or bad things can be done to you when you were a knight. And he may be sympathetic in that sense, but he could also equally just lump Jaime into like, look, this is how dishonourable knights are, and he's one of the most dishonourable. So
I think they're very similar. I mean, the Hound kills a kid, Jaime kills a kid. They've both been traumatized by their families. They've both been traumatized by the kings they've had to serve. And had to do unspeakable things. Unspeakable things.
They've both got a bad rep.
Yeah. So they have a lot in common, actually.
So in terms of the symbolism of the dream, so the circumstances of the dream are Jaime's had some dream wine, and the stump that he falls asleep on. I was getting confused reading this chapter, actually, because I'm thinking of the hand stump and then also the stump that he lays his head on as well. There's too many stumps in this chapter. But he realizes later on that it was the stump of a weirwood tree, which again obviously is going to make this dream a lot more intense if he's having dream wine. But the symbolism in terms of the location, so he knows that he's underneath Casterly Rock, and he gets this sense of it being immense and oppressive, almost, the rock above him, which just, you know, that's kind of like, it doesn't face it. Even the voices are saying, this is, you know, this is your place. When he's asking, where is this? This is your place. It just doesn't seem to fit well with him at all. So, you know, again, I would argue that that's more evidence that he's not a Lannister. It just doesn't seem to sit right with him, this sense of the rock being this oppressive thing that's weighing him down. And also when Brienne is asking what lives in, I think he's asking Brienne what lives in the darkness, and she says doom, or the other way around. But it's just, again, this feeling of things being underground, and that there's this something that lives there underground in this darkness, and that it's this sense of doom. It just plays on that, like, you know, what something's going on up above ground and something's going on underneath ground. So it
just occurs to me, actually, because I was saying that you know, the Tywin and Joffrey are dead, and Cersei, well, we assume Cersei will die. I don't know, I assume Cersei will die. But Tyrion isn't down there, and Tommen and Marcella. It occurs to me maybe they're the people he wants dead. Even Brienne, to a certain extent. Like, if Brienne died, it would be easier for him because then he could just move on. But maybe they're the people that cause him the most pain, either through their hateful actions or because he loves them too much, or maybe it's a mix of both.
There's some sort of sense of responsibility. Yeah.
They definitely create the most complicated feelings for him and most complicated relationships that he has.
And there's this sense of urgency that when the flame goes out, you die.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a blue flame. So this dream here is linked very much with lots and lots of theories about Jaime being Azor Ahai, and that this dream was sent from the old gods, and that this is part of his redemption story arc, that he becomes Azor Ahai. And, you know, I mean, if that's the case, what, he plunges his sword into either Brienne or Cersei, or, you know, I don't know. I think this is just...
Thanks, Bubba, for coming along.
Yeah, I think this is more just kind of symbolic of how Jaime feels about himself, about what he thinks other people think of him, and this constant guilt that, yes, he had to kill Aerys, but at the end of the day, he was my king, and everyone, the world and his wife, forever and ever and ever, will be calling me Kingslayer. And there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. No, I do think the blue flame has something to do with the others, and I absolutely believe. Well, like, I think you said this before, that there's a lot of Azor Ahais, if you like,
a lot of candidates.
Yeah, and I do think that he's going to be instrumental in the end game in bringing down. Like, I think a lot of people think it's going to be Dany versus, if there is a Night King or a Great Other or whatever it is. It's going to be Dany or Jon, maybe even Arya. I think it kind of has to be Jaime, because Jaime is the one that he obsesses about legacy. And I think it even could be Jaime doing something knowing no one will ever know about it. But the reader will know, oh, that's what kind of does that's the straw that breaks the camel's back.
So that's like an aspect of the bittersweet.
Without that happening, I do think that we will know, but maybe nobody else will know. But Jaime will die knowing that that's okay.
Yeah.
Because I think for him, a lot of what's happened with the Aerys story is that he can't control it, because and even Brienne asks him, why don't you just tell them why you killed him?
Yeah, this needs to be announced to everybody.
Yeah. But that's treasonous, I guess, for him. But him not being able to control the narrative is a big deal, but him letting go of that in the end and doing something that's incredibly courageous and involves self-sacrifice and may win the day on behalf of mankind will be really, I think, very central.
But he needn't have done that. He needn't have gone back. You know, everyone was really fed up with, like, really seriously, we're going to have to go back, and the whole, you know, I've forgotten something. He really didn't have to do that. He didn't have to go back. And I don't think he did it because he's in love with Brienne. I think he did it because he is a knight and that there is honor there.
I don't think he's in love with her. I think he's in love with her in the same way that, you know, you might go back for a friend, or I think he has formed a relationship with this woman that has nothing got to do with his family.
Yeah.
I mean, who does he have a relationship with outside of his family?
No. Yeah.
And he's the only one that does. That doesn't. Like, everybody else has had somebody, like Cersei has had a relationship with Robert, whether she liked it or not. You know, Tyrion has had a relationship with his prostitutes. They were outside the family. But for Jaime, everything has been tied to a Lannister and very close to home. And this is somebody who put her neck on the line for him, and maybe I'm giving him too much credit, and maybe it is a selfish thing. Maybe he knows if I don't do this, she'll haunt me, and I need to go back and just do
moral
this.
compass for him.
Yeah.
And I do think that he feels obliged to help her fulfill her purpose, which is to protect him. But it's interesting that I think you're right. There is a lot of like gung ho about Jaime that just rushes in, a man of action. The whole that very much Targaryen qualities. But in this chapter, he's not stupid. He can adapt, and there's that part. He basically manipulates them and uses his wits to get what he wants in this chapter, which is very Tyrion-like. He's having to adapt to, okay, I can't just threaten people anymore because I'm not as physically imposing as I used to be. So I'm going to have to adapt how I get things done here, because I am a man of action, but I've got limitations or disabilities now. So I'm going to have to start thinking a bit more like Tyrion, and it works for him. He really takes a massive risk by, like hoping that the Northmen will just jump in, but he calculated it pretty well. So he's not stupid, Jaime.
No, he's not. But speaking of stupid, will we move on to Cat?
Okay.
Our second last Cat chapter ever. Next week we'll have 2 Cat chapters. The Red Wedding.
Yeah.
So so I can't be too hard on Cat, I guess. But this is kind of continues on from Arya's chapter, in that the rain and misery and rain. And it's kind of tragic that we get all this pathetic fallacy that she talks about the banners being sopping wet, and that they can't even have the banners to kind of lift the spirits of the men. Like everybody's just miserable. And it's just like, wow, the Red Wedding was just like a tragic ending to a miserable journey.
Yeah.
A long and miserable journey. And it's there's a few things that happen in this chapter. We have conversations with Mage, Mormont, we have stuff about inheritance, and we have Pike. I want to start with, what is the random Littlefinger memory that comes back to her in this chapter about playing with Littlefinger when she's 12, and it's not a million miles away from losing her maidenhood to Ned, and it's all very strange. I don't know what goes on in Cat's head sometimes. You're reading it and go, why are you thinking this way?
Yeah.
It's like
the childhood memories are quite intense, I think, sometimes.
Yeah. Anyway, she talks about going back to Winterfell and dreading going back to Winterfell. She doesn't want to go back to Winterfell. And I guess, should we start with Rob and the secession? It's the conversation they have over Jon.
Yeah.
He does have that nice little "I'm the king," drops the mic and walks out, which is great. This is kind of the last conversation she has with Rob.
He's very distant from her, both in this chapter, definitely in this chapter, and then chapters further on. It's almost like she's just watching him from afar. He also, I mean, not only is he distant from her though, but he's also seems to be scheming and plotting things that because of that, he's pushed her away. We don't get to know from Cat's point of view what maps he's looking at, what plans he's making, what's happening, what's going on. She just feels that, there's this, like the umbilical cord's been cut kind of thing, and he's off doing his own thing. But she says the most terrible things to him that are just like, Cat, you're only ever going to provoke him. You're not going to make him understand your position if you're comparing Jon to Theon. God, Theon killed brothers, according to, you know, this is what you know at the moment, and you just turned around and said Jon Snow's no better than that. He's just, you're pushing him away completely. She's crazy.
And she knows that he's in a bad place. Now, he does listen to her about not taking Jane, and that was great advice. And she does comment on the fact that he's getting as thin as Greywind. And this makes me wonder, has Rob had some sort of prophetic type dream where he's seen something about his own death? Because he's definitely seems to be acting like somebody who knows he's going to die.
Yeah,
and I say that because he's all over the Vanguard. He's hanging out with different people. He's keeping her at a distance, maybe because he's trying to prevent more pain for her. But still taking her advice. He takes her advice on Jane, and he is hurt about the Theon thing.
Yeah.
Can I just say, though, playing devil's advocate, I'm not a huge fan of Kat. She kind of has a point. He was supposed to keep Theon near him, and he didn't.
Oh yeah, he messed up completely with Theon.
And I know it's cruel to say that about Jon, for sure, but and I know she's saying it. You see, he knows that she's saying it from a place of hatred of Jon, not from a place of concern for the Stark legacy. That's the problem. If it was somebody else, if it was like the Blackfish coming up, you know, we trusted Theon. Should we trust Jon? You know, I mean, we know that Jon is different, but we know that only because we're inside Jon's head. Like Rob isn't inside Jon's head, no more than.
But this is the thing that she's always feared, isn't it? That Jon Snow would somehow have some kind of claim to Winterfell if there was ever any kind of threat to her own children, and this is something that she's been trying to safeguard her family against since she laid eyes on Jon Snow. She always saw him as a threat to possibly the legitimacy of her own children. You know, maybe quite rightly so. Could be that her children aren't legitimate. I mean, there's the theories about, you know, Rob could actually be Brandon's, and you know, we could go down a million different rabbit holes here. But
it's psychopathic, borderline psychopathic, the way she is, and neurotic and everything. The way she's so like against Jon. But Rob is right. She talks about maybe bringing in someone from the Eyrie. I mean, Kat is a snob, no doubt about it. I mean, at the end, towards the end of this chapter, when the captain comes in and she takes one look at him and goes, "Oh, this flabby bald man. Well, he's not a lord." Yeah. You know, she's like, it's like, "Oh, why is he here and I couldn't be here? Why am I the last to this meeting?" kind of thing. Well, obviously we don't see a problem with Jon, but I think had that warning come from somebody else, Rob may have considered it. In saying that, we still don't know if Rob actually names Jon. We don't know for sure.
No, right? And what muddies the waters even more is that he's given Mage and Gilbert Glover like fake letters to take with them. So whatever the knowledge is of what he wants to pass on to Howland Reed, it's in their heads only. That's where they're carrying it. It's not written down anywhere. In fact, what is written down is fake. So
can it only be Jon written down in this letter that he gets everybody? By the way, he gets everybody to sign. Oh, just sign this, and Sneal and Connie. I totally agree. Kat is a snobby jerk, and Ian says that the Tullys are at least slightly touched. Yeah, they are. Yeah. I think for sure. No, he says, "Oh, everybody just sign and seal this, and we'll be off." And it's as if they haven't discussed it, but clearly they have discussed it. They're just not discussing it around Kat.
Yeah.
For some reason, he doesn't want her to know what's in that letter. And I think there is a theory out there that he actually names Kat as the heir to Winterfell. I don't know how valid that is. And the only thing the only evidence to support that is that he says he wants to separate his treasures, so he's not sending her to Greywater Watch. He's sending her with the Malisters. So there may be something to that, but I don't see him naming Cat. I think it has to be John or Arya, right? But he thinks Arya is dead, so it can't really be Arya. Or the other option is he has found out that Jane is pregnant and hasn't told Cat. But
yeah, maybe. I mean, the thing about Jon Snow in this context is if you accept that Robb is the king in the north, then a king could legitimize a bastard. And in that sense, Jon Snow is older than his sisters and definitely would be, legitimate heir. And I also think that this don't keep all your treasures in one purse is it could be another one of those things that's like, has history repeated itself where this has happened before? And this is why we're hearing about it in this chapter, especially if you think about theories around, there were twins born at the Tower of Joy and like they were separated and, don't keep all your eggs in one basket kind of thing. Or again, you could think about Aerys could have thought that, don't keep all your eggs in one basket, and that's why he transported Daenerys to potentially Storm's End with all that scenario with Stannis and the Onion Knight and, smuggling in life into Storm's End. But anyway, it
also forces different houses to work together over great amounts of area. Like Rhaegar's actions may force Dorne and the North to work together. It does force Dorne and North to work together. The issue of secession is very important in this chapter, and it can't be overlooked because we get obviously a teaser trailer for probably the best chapter written in the series so far, the King's Moot in Feast. Definitely up there on my top 3.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. Where they mention Asha.
Yeah. So they mention Asha and Euron and Victorian, and it's like, who are all these people? Obviously we know them, but like it's like, the way they're talking about them, like they're famous in Westeros, so we want to know more about them. I do think that it's interesting that Arya is excluded, and she'll think a lot about, or she thought a lot about Jon in her chapter, so that's quite interesting. So we have who's gone to Glover and Mormont? Is that right? They're gone to
Mage, Mormont, and Galbert Glover have gone on. They were sent off with the letters to find Greywater Watch.
So if you're right, and I really hope you are, that our prologue and wins will be from Greywater Watch. Potentially, we could have them there, and a very interesting conversation.
I mean, it would be amazing if we did. All we know is that we are going to see her in the prologue for Winds of Winter. Where she'll be, I don't know, but it's that.
I had a mad thought. If it's from her point of view, I know it's supposed to be Maester next. If it was from her point of view and she was dying in childbirth, because we actually haven't had someone die in childbirth in this timeline, right? But lots of women have died in childbirth.
Yes, yeah.
That would be a very interesting way of her doing that prologue. I know that it is supposed to be Maester, so I suppose that's not. He could break that pattern, I guess. But that would be obviously tragic, but also interesting for to do it from the point of view of a woman, because we've had so many women die. So they unlike Arya, Robb seems to have knowledge of the reeds have secret passages all over the neck, and it's like, are you guessing? this doesn't sound super legit. So yeah, I wonder will that come up again? And there's quite a lot of detail about the plans to take Moat Cailin and all that kind of thing. So I wonder will a lot of his plans here come into action if the Northern conspiracy is proved to be insane. I wonder will they use
where
a lot
it's
of
like from three sides, like attack from three sides.
Yeah. And
a lot hinges on Howland Reed and knowing whether or not any messages have got through to him and where his, you know, who knows? Who knows?
I think it definitely, we have to get something from a Dane or a Reed in Winds. If he's ever going to finish up in 2 books, he has to give us one of them in the next book. But yeah, so I suppose since we're going to spend a lot of time on Cat next week, we should probably move on to another action-packed chapter from Sam. Another horror-filled chapter from Sam. Sam who crushes his horse because he's too fat, apparently, or he's worried about crushing his horse because he's too fat.
He's so self-depreciating, isn't he?
And not at the same time. He also thinks in this chapter, "Oh, I couldn't have anything with Gilly. I'm highborn." He's a wildling. It's just a similar thought that John had. He prays to the old gods at one stage, and the old gods do show up. He is.
Please help us, he says. Please help us.
Yeah.
So do they hear him? Because they're right by the weirwood. One of the first questions I've got is Sam is questioning whether or not this is White Tree because the weirwood faces look different from when he was at White Tree previously. Is this White Tree, and has the weirwood face just changed, or was it just a random wildling village?
I think it's changed.
Right.
I'm thinking it's changed.
So you think it was White Tree and the weirwood faces have changed? Yeah,
I think so. He seems to. I don't think Sam is a little bit stupid, but I don't think he's that stupid. So, yeah. But yeah, so I want to ask you about the song.
Yes.
And what you thought about the song.
I think this is further proof that there's a religion hidden within a religion.
Sorry, I was checking on. Okay. Yeah, that there's a religion hidden, like the worship of the children, or something to do with the children.
Everything seems to be about the little children.
Yeah.
And of course, you could look at this is very clever that you are worshipping the 7 in a song. And of course, each of them have various different features, but ultimately it's all for the little children. It's all about the children, the little children. And it's all about dreams to the little children, which made me, that's the bit that made me think maybe this is another way of the old religion being able to manifest itself and get people to worship that religion without knowing that they're worshipping that religion. And it also made me think about in the books and in the no, not in the TV show, but in the books, definitely. I think I remember this so vividly that I almost imagine it as like a TV show episode. It is the bit where in the books Varys goes to Pycelle and gets the little birds to murder Pycelle in his chambers, and he's basically saying he's apologizing for it and saying that this is for the children. And I thought at the time, is he talking about children as in the children will, the children are our future? Yeah. Or is he talking, does he mean children of the forest? And the same here. I think the children of the forest have found a way to manipulate human beings into worshipping their gods by hiding their religion within another religion, and that the faith of the Seven is a completely fabricated, invented religion, and that has maybe something to do with the pact, with the agreement, and it also has to do with the North remembers that it doesn't remember what it's forgot, kind of, all of that kind of thing. Yeah, I think that this song is about the children of the forest, not the little children. Like, children will inherit the earth.
Yeah, I totally agree. In the same way that we learn songs that are to remind us of like certain morals, like there's certain morality tales that we learn, like I don't know if this is an urban legend or not, but like Ring a Ring a
Ring a Roses is about the Black Death. Yeah.
And Humpty Dumpty is about something as well. There's something to do with Humpty Dumpty. That like the finality of death or something, I guess. But there is something to it, I think. I was most interested by the fact that Sam is the one singing this song. Like there's like song for me with the Song of Ice and Fire are the in-between people, the people who are not ice and not fire. So the people who don't belong to Stark and don't belong to Targaryen. These are the people that are in between. And Sam is definitely one of those in-between characters for me. And a song can mean a lot of different things, I guess. But for me, I think, that's just what I think. Connie is saying the Weirwood faces kind of mirror the people nearest to him. The Winterfell tree, solemn, long-faced like Ned, later smiling like Theon's stupid smile. Yeah. And Connie says, I thought the Andals bought the Seven. I don't know. I can't remember. Maybe they did. And Bran says, by the way,
but there's no trace. That's the argument is that there's no trace of this religion in ASOS, which is where the Andals travelled from to get to Westeros. It's like, why is it that the faith of the Seven only seems to feature in Westeros if it was brought from somewhere else?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of argument about it being a made-up religion.
Yeah. I'm not entirely sure. Like, it seems like the Seven are completely useless. They don't have any powers. They don't have any superpowers. We get something from the Weirwoods, we get something from R'hllor, but we don't seem to get anything from the Seven.
I'm just laughing at that would be an interesting video. Bran the Builder, he's going to do a video covering the Night King theory today and explaining why all the Starks are Targaryen.
Oh, Bran, I'm going to add you as a moderator so you can link anything you want in the chat there so that people can get the links. So obviously the thing here that really interested me was the idea of the cold when they come. Oh, we also find out here that they don't sing of the stranger, which is funny because in the next chapter, like the Hound openly like just calls his horse the stranger. He doesn't give a shit. We also find out that the wildlings don't name their kids either. That's something that's quite interesting. I'm really interested though. I love when George is horror writing. I just love his horror writing. And I'm really interested in how the feeling or the cold also brings an emotional response.
Yes.
And it's almost like the emotional response comes first, like the feeling of dread.
Yeah.
It's not an instinctive thing. It's like that comes with the cold. In the same way as Connie is saying about the Weirwoods maybe reflecting the emotional states of the people around them, I think the cold is doing that too. And like, the rain was bringing people down in the last chapter. So
it's very atmospheric, certainly.
We can come back to talk about how shit his dad is as well. I have that down at the bottom here by accident. But Small Paul shows up.
Yes.
And the dragon glass breaks against his armor. The ordinary
dragon glass does nothing to stop Small Paul. No.
Nothing. But fireworks, so it's only fire. So this suggests to me that for endgame battles to take place, it's going to have to be Dany with the dragons to take out whites.
Yeah.
And then some other force to take out the others, or the White Walkers with dragonglass. But how they're going to organize that is beyond me, unless they have Sam there to deliver that knowledge.
Yeah.
So, like, Sam is in Old Town right now, so we need to get Sam really explicitly. I don't want him walking in the room while Bran has his feet up watching EastEnders. Sorry.
Yeah.
He'd always has his feet up. That was very insensitive. But like, that was a bit shit in the TV show, in fairness, right? Bran, mind if I come in?
Yeah.
Let's just lay out everything right
now.
Dragonglass works and Tower of Joy, blah blah blah. It's like,
John is a Targaryen.
Yeah. Connie says, do they not name their kids in the event they're taken for a sacrifice? Well, I don't think so, and they wouldn't necessarily have to name boys anyway. So I don't know. They don't. I think it's Val talks about it later as well. They don't name kids because mortality rates are so high among wildlings. I think that's the reason, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, that would make sense. Yeah.
Maybe
there is something about it. There's a protection thing. If you give the child a name, they can be identified easily, because this seems to be what this is what they're after, according to Gilly. This is all happening because he's come for the babe. He's come for the life. Which just makes me think maybe this is why they're marching. This is going to be different in the TV show, but maybe in the books, this is why they're marching south, is because they're after this baby that's been stolen from them. That would have been like the 100th. I don't know. There's a special number, isn't there, about however many babies had been taken before.
It is very weird the way there's so many of them there. So were they, when they met the Night's Watch at the Fist, were they just automatically on the way to Craster's for this baby? Were they expecting this baby to be born?
Maybe. Yeah.
So so he fights the Small Paul and eventually lights him on fire, whatever. And as he's going outside, there's a really strange line that I hadn't noticed before. He says, as he goes to the door, it's so cold, it hurt to breathe. A fine, sweet hurt.
Yeah.
Which, this is the guy that pissed himself as soon as he saw Small Paul, and then shouted things like, "You're dead! You're not supposed to be here." So this idea that it's a fine, sweet hurt, it made me wonder: is there something slightly intoxicating or attractive to kind of giving up your I guess your free will or your person to just like, oh, here we go, kind of like the Dementors in Harry Potter, the way they, like, you know, that kind of, you can give into it. If you wanted to, you could just give in and they'll just take you. I just wondered, is that going to be something that we might see again? It's a strange way. I'm not sure how else to interpret that.
He's. I mean, on the face of it, it's a typical Sam chapter where he's self-depreciating, but when it comes to it, he is actually he's able to demonstrate that he is actually quite brave, and he's trying to save Gilly above himself, and but I think, you know, there could be this just like, okay, it's happening, it's over, you know, I'm going to do the best that I can in this situation, but I can't see myself getting out of it, so I'm just going to give, you know, old gods,
Sam.
old gods take the wheel kind of thing, you know. Yeah.
It's Sam. It's like when he's torn when he first enters the house. He's like, do I go near the fire or do I just lean up against the wall? But the wall is far from the fire. Bran says, we assume regular iron does nothing to the others, but it's said they are weary of it. We've no instance of regular steel versus the others. Barbara says, does anyone in the books have last names other than bastards and lords? I can't think of any, but I miss a good deal. You and me both, Barbara. A lot of people are referred to like by where they come from. I guess in a village, it wouldn't really matter. I'm not
Well, there's
sure.
Mance Raider, but you know, and there isn't like.
Well, you're often named after like he might be Mance Raider. I know it's not spelled the same way, but because maybe he came from people that raided, like Tom of Sevens.
Yeah.
You know that you're kind of like that's where we get like names in our own world of like Baker.
Common Giant Bane.
Yeah,
is that it's more of a nickname, isn't it? Yeah.
You're kind of named after what you do, but yeah. Connie also asks, like he ran a mile, kind of hurt. Yeah, maybe. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into it. Maybe he's just trying to escape the smoke from the room, but there does seem to be. I feel like if you're overwhelmed with those kind of numbers, there's something like, oh, I'll just give in. Like, do you know when you're like when you're after a really long day and the train is late or something, and you're like, oh, I'll just sleep here. I could live here.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered to figure out the schedule. So it could be just something simple like that. And Jenny of Oldstones. Thanks, Connie. That's a really good example as well. So eventually Sam goes outside and Gilly is there, and all the whites are basically attracted to the baby. And the raven that came with Small Paul.
And remember, he wanted a raven. He always wanted a raven, didn't he? Yeah.
Sam starts saying, oh, it's not fair, and I think the raven says fair, fear, fear, and then run, like just run. And here's my question. I assume Bloodraven has sent, or Bran, but I'm guessing Bloodraven sends the ravens and Cold Hands. But do the ravens and Cold Hands come together, or are they separate things? Or it doesn't matter.
I think as we go on in the chapters later as well with Bran, that there are ravens around Cold Hands whenever you see him in whenever he features in a chapter. I've got a feeling that they seem to sort of come with him. You know, like they sort of accompany him wherever he goes.
Yeah, so that's so the Cold Hands just says two things, brother and here. And from that all sorts of theories have come up about Cold Hands. Rhaegar, Howland Reed, Benjen, which has been debunked by George, although George might be trolling this. Bitter Steel, is that another one? There's lots of theories about Cold Hands. I kind of think it doesn't really matter who he is. I don't know about you. I feel like it doesn't. Again, it's like, oh, who's this mysterious person?
Yeah, I don't think we're going to get to find out who he is.
No,
I just don't think we will. I don't think we'll ever get to find out.
No.
So he was a brother of the Night's Watch, was probably died and was whited, but somehow Bloodraven managed to get hold of him and prevent that from happening. He seems to be kind of stuck in this stasis of half dead, but not quite a white.
So Sam's dad, worst dad ever.
Yeah.
I mean, I find it weird that Sam had to sleep in with his sisters, and that he has this kind of weird sex dream about Gilly, and it's like his dad completely messed him up sexually as well. There's like a weird kind of sexual thing with Sam, and I don't know. He's kind of he can't, but like he knows his dad won't believe that he's been called Sam the Slayer, and yet he doesn't want to brag about that either. So he's a really
Mm.
conflicted soul, for Sam.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
yet I don't think we've had a another POV that has had 3 chapters like this that are
Mm.
basically all horror centered chapters.
Yeah.
But yeah, so did you have anything else that you wanted to say about this chapter?
Well, just, you know, one of the obvious things is it seemed as though the whites were there for the baby, not Gilly. You know, Gilly was never probably in any danger at all. If she'd have just done that and handed them over to them, you know, the whites are being controlled by the others. They want the baby. She knows that. She knows that they're in danger and that that they've come for this human life, this baby's life, and it obviously appears that the ravens attacked the whites to specifically to protect the baby. So, you know, is there something specifically special about this baby as opposed to any other of like Craster's sons that have gone before?
I think I
Yeah.
think it could have been any of them.
Mm.
I think there's something about the fact that it's now the last of Craster's babies as well.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
we don't
Yeah, that's it. The baby factory stopped
the
now.
baby
Yeah, yeah.
factory is
Yeah.
ended as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we are going very late, and this has been very long. I knew this was going to happen though, because they were so different, all these chapters. This is the first time we've had chapters that there's no common theme. But yeah, should we move on to Arya 9 and then finish up?
Yes.
This is quite a straightforward. I'd actually very little on this chapter.
Yeah.
This is basically the launch of the new buddy duo in
Mm-hmm.
in the Song of Ice and Fire, and it's more just about Sander the Hound kind of. She thinks that he's bringing her to King's Landing, and then at the end he says, "I'm not bringing you to King's Landing. I'm going to bring you to Rob and get get a load of money for you, or which I completely forgot about, or what's better for him is if Rob actually takes him into his service because Rob could do with him. Like Rob, like he. It seems like he really wants to serve somebody who would give him access to killing the mountain.
That surprised me
Mm.
because that was one of those details that I you know, I'd completely forgotten about in my numerous rereads previously. That the Hound is really pretty desperate to be taken into service by Rob. And I mean, that could be a way for him to just get closer to Sansa. I mean, he seems to want to get the message across to Arya that, you know, him and Sansa had some kind of thing going on, you know, and she sang for me and I saved your sister's life and, you know, I'm done with the Lannisters. Your brother's he needs me. Your brother's got to take me. It could be that it's just an easy way for him to get access to his brother, but it could be that he wants to be nearer to Sansa. It could be that he thinks this is a way of him, you know, maybe becoming the knight that he thinks he should be in his own mind, what his description of a knight is. Sorry, I'm just going to have to turn the sound off because the kettle's really loud.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it did surprise me how well he can read Arya. You forget actually how intimately connected their lives have been. That he has seen her as a very young child. He's one of the few people in Westeros. Really, there's only a handful of people that can recognize Arya now. And he can recognize her straight away. And yeah, I feel like he instantly, when he says it to her, oh, do you never want to kill a sibling? And he says, oh yeah, of course, Sansa. You'd want to kill Sansa, of course. And it's because of this surprisingly intimate connection that he has. But he gets very pissed off when she brings up Micah again. And with good reason, I guess, that nearly got him killed the last time he saw Arya. But also maybe he feels a bit guilty about it, although maybe that's giving him too much credit. This comes back to the Jaime conversation we had. But yeah, I agree. It's like going towards Rob is very interesting. And so does that mean you're shipping them a bit more, him and Sansa? Are you going to take the train to shipping to Sansan town? Oh, and Bran, definitely I'll try and make that if I don't fall asleep. It's quite late here now.
No, not necessarily. I think that he's just kind of wanting to switch sides. He wants to get away from the Lannisters, and he feels as though, you know, I need some purpose,
Yeah.
and I can offer something, and your brother needs me. So I think it's probably more than that, But I think he's trying to ingratiate himself in a way with Arya. As a sort of, you know, look, I didn't harm your sister. I didn't, you know, she's my friend. You know, she sang for me. Blah blah blah. I think probably that's what he's trying to do with Arya a bit more. But I think I just made a note that I thought it was interesting that the Hound was kind of as scary as he appears to, especially a child, and she's got him on a list and everything like that. But he's actually, in this chapter, he kind of comes across as, he doesn't beat her, he doesn't physically harm. I mean, he wraps her up in his horse blanket so she can't run away, but he's firm with her, but he's actually quite fair. And she responds in a way that she's very petulant at first, and then she responds in a way where she actually eventually does as she's told. And I just thought that's quite sad in a way. It's almost like Arya is craving some parental guidance from someone. And I know that, I mean, I always imagine Sandor Clegane to be the, you know, the actor who plays him in the TV show. But actually in the books, he's not that, he's like in his early 20s. He's probably not a great deal older than Arya.
No, he's not that old. No, not at all.
But yeah, no, he seems to have, there was something of a father figure there for me.
Well,
and I thought it was
like, it's the carrot, literally the carrot and the stick, or the cheese and the dagger. Like, everything like is handed to her, but there is that threat of violence at the end of what he gets, you know. But again, it happens quite quickly, where it's very intimate, this kind of sharing of food and everything. He is trying to protect her, I think, as well.
Yeah.
In his own weird way. But oh, Bran, I will definitely check that out. Bran, do you want to delete that? Because this is I'll copy and paste it before you delete it, but maybe because this is saved in perpetuity now on YouTube. It's up to you though. But now that you save the chat, it automatically appears. If I can, I will, but it is like 20 to 11 here, so that is at night, so that might be a little bit late. But yeah, all right. So that's it for me. If that's it for you.
I think that there's some foreshadowing here when the village guy falls out of the boat, and Arya says maybe he'll wash up somewhere downstream.
Yeah.
So that's some foreshadowing of things that can, or people that can be washed up somewhere downstream. So that's, you know, that's the Hound later on.
Yeah, and he also says that he doesn't care about her uncle's bloody wedding.
This may be an obvious question. When he gives the man a note and says there's 10,000 dragons on there, it's a paper promise in writing, and that I'll come at you. Was there something written on that paper, and was it from somebody? Yeah. Was it some sort of seal or something that says it's from Dondarrion? Is it?
Yeah, didn't he give him the money? It said.
Oh, an IOU.
Right. That's right.
Dondarrion gives him an IOU.
Yeah. No, that's right.
Forgot about that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks, Stuart. I told you he's better than the owl. I paid £4 for that app. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, it is a nice introduction to what will be a horrible set of chapters next week, although probably way quicker. This is definitely our longest stream ever. But yeah, it's just the way they fell. I'm sure it'll be a bit quicker next week, because next week is everybody's favorite, the Red Wedding. Do you get a lurch in your stomach just thinking about it? I hate it.
Yeah, I know these back-to-back chapters and what they just the atmosphere of them and the just how they're written. Definitely, I'm looking forward to that. But it's it's going to be a busy week for me because I'm starting my new job as well on Friday.
Yeah,
so
best of luck.
It might be that I just wait till the weekend. I usually do like a chapter, try and do a chapter a day. But yeah, so we've got Jon, then Cat, Arya, and then it ends with Tyrion.
It ends with Tyrion wondering how the hell he's going to tell his wife.
Yeah.
That her family has been killed, basically. But yeah, so let's say goodbye and thank you to everybody who joined us in the chat. Bran the Builder is going to have some video up later on, so please go check that out. He has the link there in the chat, I believe, maybe. I will see you next week. And Claire, I'll probably talk to you during the week. Everybody else will see you during the week. Thank you so much for joining us. Next week, it's Claire just said. Okay. I lose my mind. Bye, everybody.
Bye.